chanting, but I can understand that you're not well. So.
Om Namah Pranamarthaya Shuddha Jnanaika Murtaye Nirbalaja Prashantaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Namah Somagacha Rudragacha Namastamragacha Arunajacha Om Namah Shivaya Bhagavate Arunachaleshwaraya Girijaramanaja Namo Namaha. We appreciate the efforts of Vedic Renaissance made by His Holiness Swamiji Atmanandaji, and we are very much pleased and feel blessed to visit Arunachal Kshetram again. My previous visit was in March, when we had spoken in a Shastra Sadas consisting of erudite presentations in various Shastras. At that time I had to visit this. Unfortunately, I had a double attack since last night. One was the hypoglycemia. That was my first experience actually. So sugars were very low, and I could hardly speak in the morning when she called, Bhagavad Prasiji called, and I could not hardly speak, and I said, please give me 2 hours time, then I will come back. And I hope that I should be able to continue my speech as long as my body allows. We'll continue in English. Thank you. Universal harmony and world peace. These days we have many conferences and many meetings which seem quite fashionable. The world peace, according to me, is one of the most misused. Everyone who is conducting a conference or a series of negotiations, everyone says that it is world peace. You can draw it to any part of the world, including the ongoing crisis in Ukraine. Everyone says that we are striving for world peace. And we also say that it is universal harmony. What exactly is the harmony? Harmonics in English and Latin, they speak about a sweet tone. If the tones without any jarring note is played, people would feel quite relieved and they all feel happy. We also call it as Samasvarata. That applies to both the speeches in physical form or the instrumental musics or our own Vedic recitations. The Saptaswaras have to maintain their semblance and balance. Therefore, we will feel the harmony. But what does that has to do with the universal peace or universal harmony? Verse in English means it is not just a composition of a literary unit. It is the composition of the 5 elements. If the composition is unique, following a certain pattern, we call it as universe. And this universe has its harmonics. How is it possible? Once we open up our windows, our doors, go to the nature, we find the harmonics which are emanating from various sources in nature. So universal harmony means the natural sound, the sound which is actually enthralling and keeping us fit and happy, that has to be protected. Till then, we will not have the concept of universal harmony. How is it possible? Conservation is very important. Sustainability is the second one. With the sustainable living, without destroying our own source of livelihood, if we conduct ourselves, then we can easily deem that there is the harmony which can be found in the entire universe. I'll just give you one small example. We are used to certain sounds which are quite popular, but the semantics of our Shastras are very explicit in giving many explanations. When I say that, you have the radio waves from the other worlds. Normally, very few people would think about it. And do you believe that the terrestrial, planetary sounds are also available? No, we don't. Because we have never had an occasion to listen to such a sound. I will just give you one example. We all get blessed by the darshana, the sight of Ravi. If I ask anyone what is Ravi, everyone would say that it is Surya or the sun. Even the ruling party has its, in spite of their differences in policy and culture, the ruling party in the state also has the sun as its emblem, the rising sun. But can someone explain why it is called Ravi? Rauti iti Ravihi. Rauti means one who makes a sound is Ravi. We are not that there is light, but we are not aware of the sounds. How do you find these sounds? Once we go to the northern pole, there our Guruji was fortunate to visit those northern lights, they call it. Along with the lights, a mysterious sound emanates. Only at that part of the pole they can be connected. Why I am saying this is, universe has a sound and every entity has a sound. So our duty is to observe it, conserve it, and leave it alone without disturbing. That is the only way to achieve the universal harmony. The next comes the concept of world peace. Who is at peace? None. As long as we have the Kartavya Diksha, or as long as we have familial duties, societal duties, we never feel we are relaxed. We never feel we have total peace, peaceful life. Because something will be prodding in our minds to do something more. Even one of the greatest sadhakas, siddhas, after doing something, still they feel incomplete. So how do we explain this? If the world has to feel peace, everyone's rights have to be ensured. Once these rights are asserted by someone, then the strife starts. Therefore, the rights of each entity, each creature has to be ensured without being disturbed. That is the key. So what is the connection of Vedas to both these universal harmony and world peace? How does Veda teach this? We all know that Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We always say this. Adhya Bhautika, Adhya Devika, Adhyatmika, Tapa Prashavanam. That is the meaning of Shanti Traya. Now, is it enough that we chant the Shanti mantra alone? Or do we have some strands which are to be picked up? as Dattaraj has mentioned, what is the purpose of Veda? Dharma yagadihi. That is the answer and crux. Dharma yagadihi. Yaga and other things are called as dharma, which are proposed by Veda. Yaga, in fact, is misconstrued as a mere religious ceremony, which is a fundamental blunder which is committed by most of us. हम सभी लोग एक यज्ञ का अनुष्ठान करना मतलब किसी पूजा पाठ के लिए ये सीमित है, इसके आगे कुछ भी नहीं है. इसलिए कोई अध्वर्यु, होत्रु, उद्गात्रु ऐसा ऋत्विजों के लिए संभावना मिलती है. इनफैक्ट दैट्स ट्रू. ऋताज इज्यते, ऋताज धनाज इज्यते इति यजति इति ऋत्विक. One who works to earn his rightful संभावना is called a ऋत्विक. That is the, because I am a grammarian by course, so I always go by the basics only. So that is the purpose of ऋत्विक. So is it implied that to earn your livelihood we need the Vedic rituals? If you go to any large temples in this blessed state, or in any state of our country, or perhaps in many places of prayers all over the world, we have mammoth buildings which are doing wonderful service in terms of earning potential as tourism for the governments, for the local population. So can we compare this sort of livelihood to the Vedic rituals? That should be the fundamental question. If that is the purpose, then how do you explain that Vedas offer universal harmony and world peace? That means we have stopped somewhere and we have conveniently, we had become oblivious to the fundamental message of Veda, and we have glossed over very important tenets, and we have looked at as a ritual practice to earn some livelihood. Unfortunately or fortunately, most of the rituals are limited to this pattern alone. And it is even more unfortunate that the practitioners themselves are not aware of these things. If this is the case, what does Sadhana Pachaka say? Vedo nityabadhigata taduditan karmas parushtiyata teneshasya vidhigata mapachatihi kamye matistyajyata. According to me, these four lines are for a peaceful society. Vedaha nityam adhigata. I will just give them the metaphorical translations. Vedaha is nothing but wisdom, jnana. What does it constitute? Vivekaha. Separate the permanent from impermanent. Nitya nitya vastu vivekaha. So what is to be taken with a pinch of salt and what is to be taken at face value, that we should be able to determine and discriminate. Thereby we have the jnana. Vedaha nityam adhigata. So in normal English sentence, keep your wisdom and knowledge intact. Number one. Taduditam karmas varushtiyata. Whatever is proposed in the Vedic rituals, tat uditam, tena uditam, whatever is prescribed in the Vedic rituals, that has to be put into practice. So it's a sort of the twin-pronged strategy we call in Vedic parlance. There is called Brahma Kshatra. Brahma and Kshatra. Brahma is knowledge, Kshatra is governance. So the governance, implementation should be backed by pristine knowledge and wisdom. Teneshasya vidhiyata mapachitihi. It's very fine if we limit to these two aspects. But the third one is actually guiding the philosophy of a human. Tena ishasya vidhigatam apachitihi. With the Vedic rituals, you have to offer yourself to the worship of the Almighty who has given us. Then what is for you? Just do your duty, don't expect anything. Then comes the $1,000,000 question. Can you find one idiot in the entire universe who does not work for a profit or for a benefit? Can we find them? No. But that is the way to achieve the world peace. How? As long as you are not a stakeholder in the proceeds, you are expected to maintain your decorum without any deviation. The moment you feel that there is a stake for you, then all the miseries, all the mischief will start there. That is the so whatever you are doing it, if you are a Krishivara, that means if you are a farmer, do your work and just treat that as the worship to the Almighty. Don't aspire for something which you are not entitled to. Just make yourself comfortable with your life. These are the 4 tenets of the Sadhana Pachaka, which give the entire synopsis of the conference theme. For us to be successful in achieving the universal harmonies, we should always look at the fundamental principles of the creation and ensure the rights of all the stakeholders. How is Veda related to all these things? The second question will come pops up. Let me say, you don't look at dharma as a ritual. Dharma, yagadihi, yagadi means yaga and other rights. They are a way to ensure an orderly life pattern on this planet. How is it possible? It's a vast ocean of yaga and dharma. Even my PhD thesis was on the subject only, and it's one of my most favorite subjects. I won't take much time. Vedokta mantra karmanusthana. How much time do you have got?
20 minutes.
The Vedic rituals, which we call as Agnihotra and etc. Agnihotra and etc. There are many others. Upasana, Agnikarya, Darshan Purnamasa, Chaturmaska, there are several patterns. So these rituals can be alluded to 4 parts. The first one is to develop our understanding. The first pattern is to develop our understanding. How we can do it? Let me explain. The first mantra of Yajurveda is Ishet Orjetva Vajapastho Vajapastha Devo Vasavita Prarpagatu Shresthatavana Dharmane. Your mind should be guided properly in a required ratio with the required intelligent quotient. Without that, we can't do any work properly. Devo Savita Prarpagatu Shresthatavana Karmane. I will give the background of this mantra and why it is important. Isha means Annarasa. The essence of our food is called as it. For that, Isha. Urje. We consume. What happens to the consumed food? It has to get itself transformed into energy in terms of joules. Then only we can survive. Right? So that is called Urj. Urja Bala Pranana Yoho. Bala Pranana. Pranana means enliven. Bala means the strength to survive. For this, I am doing something. Can you fathom who is telling this to whom? The Advaryu, the chief of the action group in the Yajna, he is informing this to a Palasha tree. See, there are inanimate, intransient things which we are not sure whether they are understanding or not, and not even a dumber would do this. Then how come Veda is asking you to give an explanation to your so-called amputation of a small bone? How is it possible? That is the difficulty in our understanding. We never appreciate the fact that there is life force everywhere, and recently we have got many references of proof saying that the plants have life force and they interact with each other. I think many of you are aware of the fact that there is something called commercial farming. In the name of conservation, to conserve the forest, there are groups which actually they grow urban forests, and at an opportune time they will chop off, they will amputate, and after chipping them, they will move out to the next plot. And the way two trees interact with each other is picked up the signals through which they communicate with each other. So two things are very common. The fear of survival is very important. So once the first tree is chopped, the message is carried to the entire plotted trees, trunks. So there is life force. Never assume that you are the proprietor for the entire planet, entitled to do anything to your whims and fancies. Never do this. Even if it's an inanimate or animate, transient or intransient life entity, wherever you find it, you make sure that you owe an apology and an explanation for all your actions. This sort of accountability is prescribed by Veda. Where else do you find it? Nowhere. You don't find it anywhere. And to explain more, we are inconsiderate towards lesser mortals, lesser creatures, because we think that we are superior as we have all the rights ourselves. We assume and we assume everything. And fortunately or unfortunately, the humanity is the only species which has this sort of misery, lobha, the greed. No other species saves for its tomorrow or day after tomorrow. It's only happy with the food that it gets for the next day or maximum that day. But we not only assert, we don't actually put up and keep on compiling more and more assets, not to take care of our requirements, but also the future generations. Still our greed is never subsiding. Therefore, if there is accountability in your life, saying that whatever resource, small or large, you need to be accountable to all your fellow creatures. If you understand this, the universal harmony and world peace that I have explained would become very easy. This is the understanding that is coming from Veda. This is one example. The second one is Apyagatha Bhaktigaha Deva Bhagam. The second one is we have some sort of taking it for granted. I am here today. I needed some milk. I was not here yesterday, so there was no milk. Today I have come here and I require milk. Tomorrow I will not be there, so I don't require. So today, for the requirement of my milk, there has to be some arrangement. How do we do this? How do we do this? Most natural thing is to increase the production. Does it happen on its own? No. We have to convince the producer. Who are the producers again? The cows. They are sent to, in Karnataka we have a system called Gomada, the grazing pastures lands, for the sake of grazing on our cattle. So, Gaha Pasthapayati. Further, what should happen? The calves, they have to be separated from the mothers, so that the mothers go out and they graze more and they produce more milk, because Indra is coming to take the ahuti on the Amavasya day. Amavasyashti. Aindran Dadhi means Indra has to be offered with the curds, yogurt. For that there is additional production. So this explanation has to be given to the cows. Why you need to produce more? So this is the level of sensitivity that Veda is inculcating in your life. If you are insensitive, then you are almost wasted all your Viveka Shakti, it is totally lost. This is the second example. And the third one, in the same prakarana, what is a blade of grass? What is the blade of grass? It's something. No one in the entire country or the nation gives a credence to a blade of grass. But Veda makes you understand the importance of it. Yajnasya ghoshadasi pratyushtam rakshah pratyushta aratajah idam devana idamanas saha. When there is too much grass, darbha grass growing everywhere, you have to allocate. This is for the devatas who are coming to take the ahut bhaga from us. The oblations that they are expected to take, for them I have kept it. But the conservation is very important. Have you heard of Lava Kusha? But did you know what it means? Lava means the amputated, cut stumps of a darbha grass. And Kusha is the top part which is actually cut. So those bundles, so the Valmiki, when he received the news of Sita delivering twins, then the trunk was the stumps, those were lavas, and the upper parts they amputated, they cut, chopped darbha grass, those blades were called as kushas. So he has named them as lava and kusha. Why? Because in the lineage of Sri Rama, he wanted to ensure that everyone gives proper credence to the lava and kusha. That is the reason he has named them after the lava and kusha, because the basic rituals have so much annotations. So this is the understanding that Veda is giving us. I have just given you two examples from the first Panchashat. So this is the understanding. While you study and while you implement, you should always pick this up and then spread the word about this sensitivity. You have to sensitize the society. Nowadays, we have got all things, LGBTQ, etc. We say that they have all the rights. But what about the rights of all other creatures? We should always think about them to ensure the world peace, number one. The second one is, the second aspect of the Vedic rituals is, of course, the livelihood is very important. Livelihood, how is it? Am I talking about the Dakshina? No. Evam pravartitam chakram nanavartagati hajaha aghajurindriya ramaha mogham partha sajivati. If you have a list of wasteful fellows in the planet, Shri Krishna gives you the first example. Evam pravartitam chakram devan bhavagatana te deva bhavagantuvaha parasparam bhavagantaha Shreyah param avamsyatha. For your survival, we all require water, which becomes ample only through rains. If we need copious rains, we have to understand the factors that are responsible for it. Agno praptahat samyat aditya vatisthate. Everyone was about it. Now the third part, to sustain the world, we require copious waters, which are available through the rains and which are distributed properly across, because even the areas which do not have any river basin, they also are blessed, not only sea coasts. So for that, we have understood that there is a factor which can't be explained, and but still which is very much relevant. So therefore, all our yajnas have a purpose in assuring that livability and sustainability. That is the second part. First, understanding the rights of other creatures and be accountable for all your wastage and all your usage. That is the first part. The second one is, using these yajnas, you should always think about the larger good of the planet. Number two. Number three. Here, I invite our esteemed scientists, environmentalists, and astrophysicists to think about a little about the Veda mantras and how they help. In fact, we are starting a study with the help of a few new friends. One among them is Ulrich Berg. He is a German scientist, and he has spent quite a lifetime under the guidance of Vasanta Bhatt Paranjape, and using the infrastructure of Dharma Agriculture University, he has made many experiments. And in this group, there is a Agnihotra farm in between Sydney and Melbourne. For the past 30 years, the couples, Lee and Fritz Ringma, they have been following the Agnihotra, how it would help. Now our idea is to demonstrate to the world and also understand ourselves the implications of Agnihotra and how it is beneficial to the world. As the current patterns suggest, the salinity of the water, which is the bane of many of the hinterlands, the salinity has come down with the use of Agnihotra Bhasma. And the microbial transformation is quite sufficient because no more micronutrients are added to the soil, ensuring a better yield to farmers. And the combustion, the incendiary material that is used in the Agnihotra, that combustion is actually proving wonders. So now our idea is to how to make something out of the terribly polluted rivers, terribly polluted air, because AQI, air quality index, is falling in many major cities, especially in many of the occasions, and there are many pollutants. So does the conduct of Agnihotra mitigate those nether effects? That is one part of this thing. Apart from this, the effect of Agnihotra on the cattle, crops, as well as the humans that are practitioners and passive participants who are not practitioners. This is one aspect which will demonstrate the efficacy of Agnihotra. That is the third part. The fourth part is even more beautiful. These days, speaking of the rights of animals, we are actually oblivious to the nature of reproduction that is happening. With the emergence of large dairies, no animal has got a right when it would reproduce, when it would mate, when it would die. There are no rights at all. And bullocks are the most unfortunate species. They are culled in their very infancy for the sake of veal. Now, cow slaughter is banned, but we are not banning the reproduction for your commercial exploitation. So what is the danger? The stray cattle are actually affecting all the crops around, and many farmers are disgraced. And also, they are found on every street. So the commercial exploitation, reproduction has to stop. Or we should find a way to address this problem. By the popularization of Agnihotra Karma every morning and evening, we can very easily solve this problem. How? What is the fuel for Agnihotra, cow dung, cakes or balls? Suppose let us assume that Agnihotra has been proved to be very successful in mitigating the environmental impact. Then everyone would want to follow it. If you have a Veda Shaka, you can do it. Otherwise, it's very simple. Surya, Agni, these are the two eternal. Only these two deities. So no one can claim that he does not have 6 minutes to 7 minutes a day. If someone is saying that, he is actually faking it. No one can fake business like this. So if Agnihotra is helping your household and your street and your society, then you all require the fuel to keep it live. Therefore, you will have the cow dung balls. So instead of culling an animal and for a milching cow, only for the milk, you need not maintain a goshala. You can maintain for its cow dung as well. Therefore, it is creating livelihood for millions of people who are otherwise unemployed. And we can even export to this thing. So this is the societal impact. Therefore, all of the four parts were effortlessly, they were coordinated in the Agnihotra system. Therefore, the Vedonitya Madhigatam Taduditam Karma Swarushtigatam, the karma propounded by Veda, if it has to find its relevance, we should take it in entirety and its essence. That is what would create the universal harmonics as well as the world peace. This is my take on the subject. Thanks for listening.